It's interesting. The Inc. awards for fastest growing company is, it's really great to have those. I think it's added originally a lot of credibility to our business when we started using it. But along the way, we ended up applying for Inc.'s best places to work, and we've gotten that award 3 times now. And I'm actually more proud of our best places to work award than I am fastest growing business. And I think it's important to appreciate them in that order, because the best places to work isn't tied to financial metrics. It's tied to feedback from our employees that owners aren't allowed to participate in or see, any of the questions up front or things like that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gene. How about yourself?
Absolutely awesome today. We're going to have a great conversation about fulfillment inside the workplace. Tell us about your company, ACI Transport.
Sure. So ACI Transport, we started just about 8 years ago now as a small third-party logistics company. It was myself and 2 longtime friends kind of joined forces and decided that we could do the best we could in freight and offering. Well, actually, hang on, let me take a step back and start really kind of with the origin story. So my background is in finance and accounting. I went to college to become a CPA. My dad ran a small CPA firm, and I decided I'd follow in his footsteps. 4 years of tax season, I decided it was 4 years too many, and I kind of needed to discover myself a little bit. So I ended up getting a job at another freight brokerage as their CFO. I was there for not very long, about 3-4 months. And myself and the ownership team there, we really didn't mesh well. Things like core values. And due to those conflicts in values, again, things didn't really work out, went our separate ways. I ended up starting my own freight company, and I partnered with a salesperson I had met at that business. And we were doing very well. About 9 months in, sales were going well. Again, I was handling the finance and the operations, but ran into the same issues, really, where at the partnership level, we had a conflict of values. And due to that conflict, things were not working out well in the business. So at that company, I had hired a longtime friend of mine, Gary Horton, to come in as our chief operating officer. And so he was kind of right there getting a front row seat to me shutting down that company and seeing all the things that worked and all the things that didn't work. And so after shutting it down, it was a really tough time. We got together and we said, we know how to do everything in this business. We have no idea how to do sales, but we understand everything else. And given what we'd seen in the industry, which is really being a company in the middle of shippers and truck drivers, we thought we could bring a better set of values to the market. So that was really where we started. It was in the basement of my dad's house at the time. The first conception of ACI Transport, which is the ACI stands for our core values: adaptability, communication, and integrity. And so we decided before we started it to get ahead of any potential disputes and problems we could have by declaring these are our core values, and these are the lens in which we're going to make all of our decisions. We're going to hire, we're going to fire, and we're going to evaluate ourselves and everything in this business through the lens of adaptability, communication, and integrity. And so it's a little cheesy when I give that as a pitch, but that's been our competitive advantage from day one. So again, we started about 8 years ago. Myself, Gary, we brought on another longtime friend to help us in sales, Jesse Gear, who's currently our chief quality officer. And then through leaning into the core values, we just really kind of had some explosive growth. I mean, it seems very simple, but when you lead with integrity and communication and adaptability, apparently the market was really receptive to it. They were like, wow, I can't believe there was a problem, and you actually picked up the phone when we called. And we're like, well, that just seems like basic service. And so it seemed that there was a vacuum of really good ethics in this particular space that we were in, and we brought that to the table. And over time, we've honed it. We've created some other concepts that have helped us dial it in and spread those core values to the entire workforce of ACI. But that's really the core of our business and business model and what we're trying to bring to the table.
I'm going to tell you right now, I love the way you described this. And if I was offering an award for how many times you say values in the first 4 minutes of an interview, you would win that award. And I say this completely with a smile because I know how important it is. You obviously know how important it is because you left things that were not in alignment with it twice. You now created a team, created the name of your company. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone who's put the values in the name of the company. Have you ever seen that before?
No, I've seen core values written up on walls. I've seen
Sure,
it in
sure.
employee handbooks. But my favorite thing to do when I'm out meeting a client or on a sales call, say, go to our website, pick the main number, call it, dial any random extension, and ask the person on the phone what the core values are. And so far I haven't had a moment where anyone slipped up. So that always feels good.
Well, it's in the name, so that's you have to worry about someone who messes that up. But I've never heard of it, and I've got a book coming out soon. We won't talk about my book today because it's about how to have tough conversations. But I wrestle with which book was first because I'm going to do a series of books.
Mm-hmm.
What I've been saying for a long time is values is that first book. I changed it for reasons that just to support the business because a lot of organizations are avoiding these tough conversations. They're not having them. But I really wanted to stress in here how excited I am to talk to you about job fulfillment today. I'm going to frame this into 37 employees, give or take. You guys have made the Inc. list 4 times. Recently, it just came out this week. You made it for that 4th time. It's impressive to have that kind of run in this. You're only 8 years old. What do you attribute your success and your continued growth of the company over this last 4 years?
Well, thank you. It's interesting. The Inc. awards for fastest growing company is, it's really great to have those. I think it's added originally a lot of credibility to our business when we started using it. But along the way, we ended up applying for Inc.'s best places to work, and we've gotten that award 3 times now. And I'm actually more proud of our best places to work award than I am fastest growing business. And I think it's important to appreciate them in that order, because the best places to work isn't tied to financial metrics. It's tied to feedback from our employees that owners aren't allowed to participate in or see, any of the questions up front or things like that. And so again, I may not have kind of tied all this together when I first started this company, but along the way, I've started to figure it out. We talk job fulfillment or job satisfaction and concepts like organizational commitment, and these are things I've kind of picked up along the way. I think it's proven academically as well as just kind of deep inside. We all kind of know this if we look in the right places. It feels good and feels better to be open and honest and transparent in your communication and your leadership style. When you lead with values forward, and these are what you teach and these are what you emphasize, people understand that, they can relate to that. Nobody wants to operate in an environment where they're being told one thing but have to do something else. And so I find just really leaning into transparency as it's a really good feel-good piece. And it makes sense why there's studies out there that say that the companies that have the highest level of job satisfaction and the highest levels of organizational commitment, they outcompete every other business in their category on pretty much every measurable axis. And again, I can't necessarily cite the studies, and I'm sure there's all sorts of data when you look into the details, but just conceptually, it makes sense. If your employees love what they do and they're committed to the organization, they're going to take great care of your customers, they're going to take great care of your vendors, and it's just going to lead to an overall better experience for everyone. We have a concept here. This is something we came up with in addition to our core values that I think has been really helpful on this particular topic. And we call these our 3 uniques. So these were things when we started, we said, okay, what are 3 things that we can beat the competition on without ever actually doing a single sale? And these, again, have evolved over time, but what they are today is effective responsiveness, transparency, and hyper-friendly and memorable service. And so those 3 uniques, I think, are what sets ACI apart, in addition to our core values, from every other company in this space. And then aligning your employees and your leadership along those values and those uniques, that's where you really get the power for traction and momentum in your business.
When you make the best places to work, in general, I've always been really attracted to those organizations. I remember the first time I heard about this, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I was like, I bet they provide a high level of service to their clients because those people care about the company. You mentioned it a couple of times. And you guys, we came here because we felt like one of the big factors of your success as a company is because of job satisfaction and fulfillment, job fulfillment. Why is that such an important aspect to growing a company?
Well, it's interesting. So currently, we're going through a process as a leadership team, and this has been something that's been a little bit of a struggle for us. But I'll talk about this story because it kind of highlights the topic at large, which is we went through a transition like many companies after COVID, where we are all working together, and now we're still in this hybrid work from home environment, and it's led to a little bit of feeling like we're a little disconnected from everyone. There's no water cooler talk. The culture is still strong, but it's just missing a little bit of something. And what we've identified as a leadership team is, there's different ways that you can motivate people to do a thing. And, at the end of the day, hey, we're all working because we need money and we need to pay our bills, but, it shouldn't have to be something that feels bad. How do we make it so that when you wake up in the morning, you're in the best position to feel energized and engaged with what you're trying to do? And for us, we look to inspiration. What is it that brings inspiration for individuals in a collective organization to attack your day with a positive attitude and enthusiasm and urgency? And we're going on this mission right now to connect with each individual at the company and take a deeper dive into what is it that inspires them. And we've created some questions to really try to dig into that. And I think, overall inspiration is a great piece and highly correlated with things like job satisfaction. If you're not feeling inspired by what you're trying to do, you're probably not going to be that satisfied with what it is. And so, there's a lot of things that go into it, but seemingly a big factor is taking individual goals and aligning them with the overall company goals and objectives and seeing where there's the opportunity to meld those two things, because that's extremely powerful. When you can take what is it that inspires you, what are you chasing, what are your dreams? Okay, well, hey, maybe we can't do all of that for you at ACI, but you know what? We can help by if we move you here and we talk about these things and we align this, maybe we can get you really close to one step closer to fulfilling your dreams down the road. And oftentimes we're talking about very ambitious, high level things, but then we got to walk it back to today. What can we start doing today to help move you down this path so that you can be doing what it is you want to be doing down the road, really whatever it is? And we've had some great conversations, that have really spanned the gambit as far as different things that inspire individuals and what they want to be doing long term and short term.
So again, a lot of stuff that you dropped in there, and I want to zero in on a couple of things in here. When you are inspired at work, probably have a really strong feeling about what you're doing matters. You probably have a real strong connection with who you do that with, the people around you, and you probably are also growing in a way that you feel like you're getting more skills, your value is increasing. Now, you can't argue with those things, but is there anything else that you guys have looked at when you think about, fulfillment at work that I have missed?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of conversational things, a lot of soft issues you can talk about, but there are some mechanical things that I believe do help in your strategy for job satisfaction. So I'll give some examples of things we do at ACI versus what I believe some of the other companies in our space do. So our company, or our industry had a pretty big influence from, you could think of movie scenes like The Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street. Like it's a lot of smiling and dialing and calling customers and calling truck drivers and trying to line up the dots. And so in those types of organizations, there seems to foster a culture of competitiveness against the person that's sitting next to you. Like, hey, we're competing maybe for the same job, maybe for this account, maybe for whatever it is. But there's a lot of that culture that was built into these systems and this specific industry. At ACI, when we were talking about, well, how do we develop systems so that we can be contra to that? We want to build more of a team atmosphere. And so we took some of the basic mechanics of a business like commissions, compensation, praise, how we give back to each other, and we made it more team oriented. So like a specific example would be, you might see at another company in our industry, they would say, okay, well, whoever on our ops team dispatches the most amount of truckloads, they get paid the most amount of money, right? Or the person who does enough widgets X is going to equal comp in proportion to that. And the truth is that, yes, that's a valuable thing, but there's also valuable for the person who is maybe working on the hardest stuff. And so when you measure it, it's, maybe maybe they're doing less, but there's some intangibles there. And so one of the things we do at ACI is we create a company-wide profit sharing program that every month we take a percentage of our profits and we distribute it evenly amongst everyone at the company. And so that's, just a single example of something we do to really align a team-based atmosphere with one of the biggest motivators at work, which is the financial incentive.
I love all that. And I agree with you that there's some softer things beyond just, that initial list of job fulfillment. But in absence of job fulfillment, I would imagine it's much harder to lead the people. It's much harder to get them to rally when you need them to. You've probably been through some of that as you guys are, trying to figure out how to build this team. Is there anything you've learned in the journey of forming the team that you have now that you had to overcome to build a place where people love to come to work?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like when people ask me, what mistakes have you made in starting and growing a business? I'm like, well, that we could be here for days if we're going to go through that list. But a couple major things that we've come across in this process is, well, I guess an interesting observation about current times. So I'm in some different groups with different business leaders all across different industries. And I've been hearing a lot these days about people having trouble finding staff. I hear a lot, nobody wants to work. I can't find employees. The pay people are asking for is outrageous. And I hear this from the community and peers, but truthfully, at ACI, I haven't seen it. When we need to fill a position, we've got just tons of applicants lined up. We never have a problem finding talent, retaining talent. We have almost no turnover. It's really exceptional. And so things like that give me some positive confirmation that job satisfaction and organizational commitment are absolutely vital, because I think those are the factors that's driving my experience as an executive to why we're not dealing with those issues that everyone else is seemingly struggling with. And so I kind of lean into that currently as a good example of like, hey, this is how, if you focus on job satisfaction and fulfillment at your company, you may not have to deal with these issues that other business owners are facing. And I think things like that can't be undervalued.
Aaron, we had a good time here talking about job fulfillment and how that connects to true success inside of an organization. And I'm going to go out on a limb based on the smile I see on your face. It's a lot of fun to do this with this team.
I love what I do. I love what I do every day. I'm in a really, really wonderful situation. I started a business with some people I truly care about. And truthfully, if I was a solo entrepreneur and doing this completely on my own, there's no question I wouldn't be as successful as I am today, because there's a sense of camaraderie when you're working with people you truly care about, whether they're your partners, your staff, whoever it is. It makes your job more meaningful. It increases your own level of commitment. And nowadays I work more for the people beside me than I do for myself. That's really what gets me up out of bed in the morning, and that's what brings more is meaningfulness and fulfillment to my day to day.
Well, great place to end this. Aaron, thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom.
Well, thank you, Gene. Had a great time.